This is Gorgonzola cheese, the king of blue cheeses here in Italy, and it has molds growing outside and inside. Actually, the more it rots, the more expensive it becomes. Here in Italy, the Gorgonzola market is worth over 400 million euros. And it's not just Italy. Every major European player is betting on a moldy export in the international market, with most of it going to the US. So how did Europe turn spoiled food into a luxury asset? And what is it doing to keep it alive? The mold. I've spent the last few years filming all around Europe. There is two things that I've noticed that Europeans are absolutely great at. The best in the world, we could say. Cheese and cured meats, or cold cuts if you're watching from the US. Think French brie, Italian prosciutto, British cheddar. There's no doubt if it comes from Europe, it's good. And it is a massive business. Europe, and by that I mean the EU, exports roughly 30 billion euros worth of food and drink to the US every year. I'm not surprised. If you walk through any American supermarket, or you can just read the comments on my own YouTube channel, you can tell people really value European products. They think they are better and they're willing to pay for it. But why is that? What kind of advantage do these products have over their US counterparts? Well, they have been given time to rot. For a long time, most of these products were hyper local, very traditional products born in damp caves, we could say, because there was no fridge, definitely no supermarket when they were born. A good example is Castelmagno cheese, an alpine cheese made in the Italian Alps nearby Turin. This cheese is a blue cheese, but the cheese makers are not doing anything to turn it blue. They're literally putting it in a humid damp cave and telling the mold, do your job, I'll see you in 1 year, and I'm gonna come back so that I can sell you to a very expensive hipster shop in Brooklyn. That's it. you know. And it's not just the hipster shops. There are other products that are made a little bit more at scale, well, actually much more at scale by huge companies that sell to other companies and supermarkets like Walmart, for example. One of the brands that's basically the dominating food brand in Europe is the French giant Lactalis. They own the Président brand. I'm sure if you have bought Brie or Camembert or any French cheese, you might have seen it. And in 2025, let me check my notes, they generated more than 10 billion in revenue. This is across the whole of the Americas, so South America as well. But you get the point, that's 33% of their revenue. In there, there's Brie, Camembert, blue cheeses, all made one way or the other with mold. But let's have a look at the Italians, shall we? We have Fratelli Beretta, a huge salami company. That one made with mold as well. Now, I know what you're gonna say. Surely the FDA has some kind of regulation around mold. How do these products even get in? Well, welcome to American food regulations with an Italian accent. It really comes down to whether the mold is there on purpose or by accident. In the official US standards, mold is permitted if it was added deliberately during manufacturing. But wild, fuzzy, soft white mold that grows by accident on the rind of a cheese, that's literally classified as filth. Filth! I feel a bit offended. Let's take a big name, for example, Gorgonzola. Gorgonzola is actually a good corporate cheese, we could say, because the mold that gives it its blue veins is actually inoculated during the cheese making process. When the milk is in the vat, it's all perfectly regulated. The mold itself comes from a lab, it's been sterilized. There's nothing wild about it, really. So the US loves that. For cured meats, cold cuts, let's say cold cuts, shall we? Because we're talking about the US. For cold cuts, same. If it's controlled, they know which one it is, it can be classified, amazing, it's going through customs. I do want to come back to the US, so yeah, let's not make too many jokes about the customs. Here's the thing though, I have seen a lot of cheese being made. I have been in many cheese caves, aging rooms, and that fluff is everywhere. Actually, you cannot make cheese without that fluff, you know, that white one that gets classified as filth. You cannot make cheese without filth. So what is happening here? Are Europeans smuggling moldy cheese and fuzzy salami across the US border? Look, I'm an Italian immigrant myself, so I cannot confirm nor deny whether that is in fact common practice, but no, that's not what companies are doing. Before packing and shipping to the US, all of that fluff is washed. It can be jet washed like we've seen, brushed off, scraped off, it needs to go. And when the product looks pristine enough, our custom manual as well, the one that was covered in all sorts of fluff, that's ready to cross the Atlantic. Honestly though, why are you guys so scared of mold? I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, so let's take a look at what mold actually is. I'm here in Novara, Italy, visiting Latteria di Cameri. Here they make 500 Gorgonzola wheels every day, and in this room alone there are over 5,000 wheels. Now, I am a food journalist, so it's not my first time in a cheese aging room. I hate to be the snobby European, but it's true. Most of us aren't scared of mold. We grew up with it. Mold is part of our history. There are reports from ancient Rome, sure, but it's fair to say humans have been experimenting with it way before they could even write, using it to make wine, beer, and of course, cheese. So does this mean that moldy bread that hasn't been touched in a month is safe to eat? Well, not really. See, while it is true that mold centuries ago was just a happy accident, now it is much more controlled. When we say mold today, those fluffy molds in the cave are only one side of the equation, really. Molds are actually specific strains of fungi that have been selected and controlled in labs to create a standard, replicable flavor profile.
Chiaramente lavorando con un latte pastorizzato, lavorando in ambienti sanificati e tutto, se non ci fosse un inoculo delle spore non ci sarebbe sviluppo di arbori natura.
The most common molds used in cheese are Penicillium roqueforti, used to make most blue cheeses, Roquefort first, of course, that's what gives it its name, Penicillium camemberti, which creates that fuzzy white rind on soft cheese like Brie and Camembert, of course, and then we have Geotricum candidum. I'm lucky these are in Latin because that helps me a bit. This is a mold that gives cheeses these brain-like wrinkles that you can see here and makes it very fruity and earthy. Here's how Penicillium camemberti and Geotricum contribute to the making of Baron Bigod, a Brie-style cheese made in the UK.
So it's more of a cave-like environment. You can see there's lots of moisture in here. We've got nice humidity. Penicillium, the white mold, likes dry. It likes more of a dry surface to grow in, whereas the Geotrichum likes moisture. They're both kind of playing their role in developing the rind, and they're gonna, both with that, bring flavor and texture to the rind. So we've got a nice 3 kilo cheese here. It's a nice mixture on this cheese. You've got a nice bloomy Penicillium candididium there, and you've got the Geotrichum just kind of underneath. So it's like the mixture we're looking for. It's almost like the Geotrichum is kind of under the PC, and it's just a nice blend.
Molds are very fragile. They need a specific environment to grow, and that is why in a room like this, cheesemakers will usually play with the temperature and the humidity to encourage the mold to grow.
Questo forse è il più erborinato che abbiamo visto.
Wow, si è formato tantissimo penicillin.
E c'è anche del candidum perché vedi anche dello sviluppo di microflora bianca.
Ma quello voi lo inoculate anche il candidum?
No, quello è sviluppo naturale. Diciamo la microflora esterna si sviluppa naturalmente in cella, un po' il legno, pur se sanificato e tutto, lo riporta da una stagionatura all'altra. Sì, qua c'è proprio un fondo di penicillo che si è sviluppato anche esternamente.
And it is only after 2 months for a cheese like this one, a Byron by God that I got from my local hipster shop in London, we could say, that you can in fact enjoy the fruits of the mold, the labor, sorry. This waiting time that in cheese making terms is called aging time. In French, it's very cool actually, it's called affiner, to refine. So literally the cheese is becoming more fancy. It's nice. This is a massive economic gamble because the longer you wait, of course, the more complex the flavors are gonna be, but then the more space you need for all this cheese, you know, the more people you need to go and monitor them and turn the wheels, and also monitor the molds, of course. Because you know what could happen? The mold is a living organism and it could just stop cooperating. This is not The Last of Us, don't worry, so it's not that dramatic, but actually there was real panic in early 2024 when news came out that the strain of mold used to make French Brie could have gone extinct, could go extinct. I don't know if they fixed that problem yet. And what was happening was that that strain of mold had been cloned so many times that actually it stopped reproducing. Like it said, look, I'm done. There's too many clones of me. This freaks me out. Imagine all bries in the world, not just the French one. France actually makes the mold in labs and then ships it all over the world to make all sorts of brie style cheeses. So all of these could disappear and people freaked out. People were really freaked out. But not because people cannot live without their soft cheese. I could live without it, you know, I'm more of a mozzarella kind of gal, but that's fine. These kind of cheeses generate $1 billion industry. One that doesn't even have a number, because we're literally talking about all the soft cheeses across the whole globe. That's huge. So it's fair to say that if there is mold in your product, you can command a premium. It's more expensive, not because there is mold in it, but because that mold has done a big job for you. Last summer, I went to Wales to film Havod cheddar. This is a cheddar, true farmhouse cheddar. This cheddar is made with such respect for the milk, the raw material, that sometimes you can find blue veins in it. You can find mold in cheddar. So here's what the master cheesemaker at the dairy had to say.
When that blue is really blue and it's got a beautiful vein, it's smoky, it's got a really deep flavor, and it's unlike any other blue you're ever going to have because it's from whatever is in this environment and on that cheese. It's not from a starter culture. A lot of people see that as a fault, but for us, it's just a happy occurrence, and it's not always in every cheese at all. You know, it might be one cheese in a batch. When it's there, it's quite yummy. So these are about a month old, actually, just a bit. And you can just see that progression of rind formation. And then over time, the lard kind of just totally dissipates.
It's like a painting. So the lard is not attracting the molds. Is there any correlation between the two?
Yeah, the acidity, the saltiness, the moisture in the lard, 4 things come together to attract different molds at different times.
And the price difference with supermarket cheddar, 10 times more expensive. Even more actually, depends which hipster shop you're going to. But it would be really belittling to say that the mold is the reason of that price difference. Of course, there's many other things at play, but you get the idea. Mold sells. But Europe's mastery of rot, we could say, doesn't really just stop at cheese. I have another example. Turns out I was actually very busy last summer. I was in Tuscany to film Bazzone ham, one of the rarest hams in Italy, and that one ages 5 years. That's an insane amount of time. And guess what I found there? Mold. In fact, most premium European cold cuts, let's say, we said we were gonna say cold cuts, not cure meats, they're all made with mold. Salame, guanciale, pancetta, you name it. And hear this, some molds are so important to producers that they actually give them a name. They call them noble. They're called noble molds because they don't spoil the meat. They actually help it age, breathe, and lose moisture and make it tastier. The most important role they have is actually keeping other molds away, because if those get into the product, they may kill it, and well, you and me with it.
È muffa nobile perché è una muffa importante, che è una protezione, diciamo. E una volta pronta stagionata, poi queste pancette vengono lavate per togliere tutta questa muffa, lasciate asciugare per qualche giorno e poi lavorate, sia magari messe sotto vuoto a metà oppure intere, vendute intere.
And it goes even further. Even some wines are made entirely out of mold. It looks very scary with a corkscrew like that. These wines are made with a mold that is literally called noble rot, and that is because it is deliberate. Basically, all right, pause for a minute. Woo! Magic props appearing. Basically, what happens is you have this fungus that attacks the grapes, sucks out all the water out of them, and all is left is a highly concentrated sugary bomb. That's amazing. It tastes like honey. I feel like when I was visiting that beekeeper in Greece, it tastes like Greek time honey. So these ones are amongst the finest sweet wines in the world, and they're not cheap. This one was the cheapest bottle that I could find here in London. This is from Loire in France. It was £62. But it's not just fancy French wines. There's actually German wines, Hungarian wines. They're all made with the same noble rot methods. You need specific climate conditions. You need to be by a river to create humidity, because molds love humidity. The wine is great. I mean, I love it. This noble rot method is actually quite niche. I just wanted to bring it in here to really tell you how powerful mold can be, and actually how widespread mold can be. Every major product in Europe has actually harnessed the power of mold, and thanks to that I can expense an amazing bottle of wine. I mean, in this video I've managed to maybe annoy HMRC and the FDA at the same time. Cheers to that. But enough talking about my immigration status and my tax accounts. Actually, I can guarantee that whatever product, even if it is clean and shiny and as pristine as my tax records, when it gets to you, at one point in its life, it was covered in mold. While mold is still a unique selling point in the international market, outside of controlled environments like these, mold can be extremely dangerous, even toxic. If you do a quick search online for cheese recalled over mold, that's literally what I did, you get some pretty wild results. You get some cheese, of course, but you also get baby food and nasal spray. I'm not sure about that, but let me tell you about cheese. When a cheese goes bad, you know, when the mold is really undisciplined and wild, it actually changes the acidity of the cheese. That doesn't mean that it's sour, but it just changes the sort of chemical compound, like the chemistry inside the cheese, and that attracts bacteria like listeria, which is deadly. It's very, very dangerous. For other products that are not cheese, wild mold can actually take over an entire warehouse and spoil everything, basically. This can happen during extreme heat waves because everything becomes very damp and humid, and mold loves humidity, which is actually exactly what is happening now in Europe. I'm filming this during the summer 2026 heat wave, and it is really, really hot in my London flat. What happened with a mold that is unmonitored and left like this? It can develop something called mycotoxins. That is bad, bad stuff. I wouldn't attempt aging a cheese in my living room during a heat wave. I'd much rather fund my local hipster shop and buy some cheese from there instead. And I think we all kind of agree, I have funded my hipster shop quite well for this video. And if you watched this video and thought, you know what, I don't eat meat and cheese I'm just plant-based. Guess what? If the environment in the warehouse is damp and humid, these mycotoxins can also affect plant-based products. So we need to be careful with mold. Thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in learning more about the products mentioned in this video, the Tuscan prosciutto, Havre cheddar, Gorgonzola is coming soon. You can find deep dives right here on my channel. Usually I'm dressed like that. Every cheesemaker has a different color. The blue is very fancy, I have to say. If you wish to support the channel, this is all me. I have researched, shot, edited, and this room is very cold, so give me some credit. You can support the channel by becoming a member. I also have Buy Me a Coffee if you want to leave a little tip. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Gorgonzola is coming soon.